Okay, I'm starting this year. It's going to be discussing a shayla that was presented to me. I tried to malabin it, maybe also to talk a little bit about some of the halachas of Ben HaMetzarim, and then to go on to a little bit of a Machshavah on the Chamisha Devarim She'ira, the Shivas B'Tammuz. Maybe next week we'll talk about the Chamisha Devarim She'ira, the Tisha B'Av. We'll see how that goes. So I was asked a kasha, not as common as a bris milah that happens during shvua shechal Tisha B'Av, but I was asked the shayla that it came to me, the shayla where someone had a Pidyon Haben, which came out Yom Lamed Alef of the Pidyon from the Yom HaLeida, comes out on Shabbos. Normally you do the Pidyon Haben on Yom Lamed Alef from the Leida, and Yom Lamed Alef came on Shabbos, so therefore on shvua shechal Tisha B'Av on Yom Rishon on that Sunday, it would come out the Yom Lamed beis of the Pidyon Haben. Now, the ikar zeman to do the Pidyon Haben is going to be on Shabbos, but you can't do the Pidyon Haben on Shabbos. Chazal do not allow us to do the Pidyon Haben on Shabbos. As Memela, we do it either on Motzei Shabbos or on Yom Rishon. The minig, some hold to do it right away on Motzei Shabbos, but there are others who hold to do it not at night. Not that there's something wrong doing it at night, but not at night. Especially not when you can't get as many people together. There's an inyan in making a Sudas Pidyon Haben with a lot of people, having a big tzibur together. There's brought down based on Rishonim, there's inyan Pirsume Milsa, to do it with a lot of Pirsum, the Pidyon Haben, the Sudas Pidyon. As Remela, L'chayra, the bris, these Pidyon Haben would be on Yom Rishon, or shvua shechal Tisha B'Av. And then shvua shechal Tisha B'Av, the question was really 4 points we have to talk about. Making a Shehecheyanu, which we'll talk about. The question is the seuda, having a seuda's basar is a seuda's mitzvah, but on the other hand, you can say it's a seuda's mitzvah of a Pidyon Haben on lamed beis. We'll call almost a seuda's mitzvah of a Pidyon Haben shelo bizmano. That's number two. Another thing is we're bearing the Avi of the, not the Rachamim, or you talk by bris milah, but Avi Ben, he's the Iker Man Da'am, who's doing the mitzvah, is on Sunday, is on wearing Bigdei Shabbos, and the question is also about being mistaper, to cut his hair, to cut his beard if he has, to trim his beard at least, is what is going to be the parameters of that mutter also. L'gabi Shehecheyanu, which is really going to be a shayla for every Pidyon Haben. That's mafurish in the halacha. The Machshavah brings down the end of Simon Tov Kuf Nun Alef, the minhag not to make a Shehecheyanu during Ben HaMetzarim. From Shivas B'Tammuz Tisha B'Av, it's brought Yesh L'Zar Shaloi. Yesh L'Zar. We got Toiv L'Zar. And Sif Simin Yud Sif Simin Tov Kuf Nun Alef Siv Yud Zayin Toiv L'Zar. Shehecheyanu is good to be careful to say. Shehecheyanu, you should be careful not to be mavar Shehecheyanu ben HaMetzarim al pri or malbush. On a pri or malbush, I mean, better not to eat a new pri or wear a new lavush, a new baguette that is a baguette that a person would commonly make Shehecheyanu. Nowadays, that's normally on a new suit for a man, a new hat. But it says beferish in halacha, but aval al Pidyon Haben oimer. But the Pidyon Haben you do say, l'gabi bris milah in Eretz Yisrael, the meaning is to yes, make a Shehecheyanu also on a bris milah. In Chutz La'aretz, less make. Come out, no one makes a Shehecheyanu, so it's not no gay bris milah. But Pidyon Haben oimer, you say Shehecheyanu v'lo yachmitz mitzvah, meaning you shouldn't be machmitz the mitzvah or the bracha. It's bizmano to do the mitzvah. Remember, you have to do the mitzvah. Once you're doing the mitzvah, you make a Shehecheyanu together with that mitzvah. So Shehecheyanu is not a question. What's nogay the seuda? So it's a very interesting halacha. Even though the inyan of not eating basar yayin meikard in the Gemara is only on seuda mafsekes, in although during Shivas and Avelis can eat basar yayin, just an oimin not. Seudah mafseket with the Gemara, we don't have basar v'yayin, but from the minig rishonim, the Rama already brings down the minig, is that we don't have basar v'yayin. Some hold shvua shechal boy, some all gimel shvuas, the whole ben mitzarim. The other day that the Machshavah bring down BiYehuda Mosifin is in Siman Tav Kufnan Alef Sif. Tes BiYehuda Mosifin Mersh Chodesh Abetayis. Some are Mosif the Aser from Mersh Chodesh until the Tainis, meaning from Mersh Chodesh to the Tainis we don't have basar v'yayin. That's the minig no. So what about having basar v'yayin for Seudah mitzvah? So that the Rama brings down that for the tzorach mitzvah we have. And he says, list a few Seudah mitzvah, the Rama brings down, who was Seudah mitzvah. And he says, Kigon Mila, who Pidyon Haben, V'siyum Meseches, V'seudas Eirisin, Oifrim, Basar V'shoisin Yayin. We don't make it in the Suyin, but he's talking about Seudas Eirisin, which we don't do. But it says like this. If it's during from Rosh Chodesh until shvua shechal, which right now I'm saying this here on Tuesday, Erev Rosh Chodesh. So from Rosh Chodesh would be from tomorrow on your Revi, and then shvua shechal from Shabbos, from after Shabbos. So then it says v'shoisin yayin kol hashayachim to the seuda. Anyone who would come machmas the seuda, they would come anyways. Korva or ahava. Mitzad or oyevim of the bnei simcha. But says the Rama, v'shvu shachal by Tisha B'Av ein alecho basar lishtas yain rak minyan metzumtzam. So there's a tremendous chumrah that who can eat the basar v'yayin? Only a minyan metzumtzam, nothing more than a very specific minyan. Over here the Mishnah brings down, and he's been machriya like one day in the Achrein like the Taz. Rak minyan metzumtzam, says the Mishnah in Sifkon Ayin Zayin, Hailu movad hakroivim hapsulim le'edus. Meaning that we talk about minyan metzumtzam, that's not including all the bnei mishpacha that are called kroivim, that there's such kroivim that's apostle le'edus, would include brothers, sisters, parents, grandparents, kids, that's not okay by Pidyon Haben, other children, uncles, aunts, cousins. So, Emechanami, the Rama says you can only have a minyan metzumtzam, but a minyan metzumtzam includes more than just the minyan, it includes all the balei simchas kroivim. So therefore, 95% of the people who stay for the seuda of a seudas Pidyon Haben normally are the kroivim. But if there aren't kroivim, is there a lot of oyevim? Then really the halacha says it's supposed to be held down to what we call a minyan metzumtzam. More than that, not. That's what it says, the halacha. That's what it says. Just to further in this inyan of that, but that once you're allowed to have for all these kroivim, you can have basar v'yayin. Now, is this nogeya when it says Seudas Pidyon Haben, also what we call a seuda, a Pidyon Haben that's called shelo bizmano? Would that also include a Pidyon Haben that's shelo bizmano? So the Maisa would include also shelo bizmano. The Mishabur brings out some tough kuf samaches. A halach, they're talking about certain seudas mitzvahs that you don't have to fast certain time yois. Meaning, if a person has a minhag to fast time is baham or source made Teshuvah, he doesn't fast those when there's a seudas mitzvah. And the seudas mitzvah it mentions there is bris milah, mitzvah le'echo ve'ein tzarach Torah. But what's included in that seudas mitzvah? So the Mishabur brings down a question: what about a Pidyon Haben? He says. So he says a Pidyon Haben is definitely going to be a Pidyon Haben that's called bizmano, Yom Lamed Aleph, but if you couldn't make a Yom Lamed Aleph, which is in this case, and the Pidyon Haben to be Yom Lamed beis, so it'd be shelo bizmano. He brings out the Magal of Rama is choishesh. But the Mishabur is machri and Sha'ar Tziyon, that who was in by Pidyon Haben shelo bizmano, that you can go ahead and also eat And on those yomim of tiny yois, it has a regular din of Seudah mitzvah. So even if he eventually was bizmano, those is doichatainis who a din that you can have bus of a yayin on the Pidyon Haben, even though chaloi bizmano. It would be l'chorah have the same halacha. Now we have to discuss the next halacha is what's going to be by rearing Bigdei Shabbos. Now Bigdei Shabbos, it's brought down in the beginning of Simon Tov Kuf Nun Aleph, also legave baalei simcha. In the first halacha, Simon Tov Kuf Nun Aleph Sif Aleph, the Rama brings down Mila Shumar Shchodesh Ar Tisha B'Av Noigin Shamoyel Ubal Bris, which includes the sandik, Bal Bris, Va'avia Ben Elohim Bigdei Shabbos, and Huadin Avi Ha the mother, Huadin the aim. So the Avia Ben, the aim Ben. Some say even the grandfather. The grandfather could be even both grandparents, a big shayla, but that they can wear Bigdei Shabbos. What about Sha'ar simchas like Pidyon Haben? So it doesn't say beferish by seuda, every seuda missing you can wear Bigdei Shabbos. But I did see poskim saying that yes, they can also wear Bigdei Shabbos. What would be the reasoning that we would allow them to wear Bigdei Shabbos? And we'll see soon the Gave also to be mistaper. It would apply the same thing that I want to get to. The reason to say that you can go ahead and wear Bigdei Shabbos in such a thing is also at Pidyon Haben is based on another halacha, a very interesting halacha in Simon Tov Kuf Nun Tes. There's an interesting halacha based on the sugya of Gemara and Tainis. What about if you have a Tisha B'Av shenitcha? Not a Tisha B'Av that came out proper on Yom Rishon. Sometimes Tisha B'Av comes out on Yom Rishon, but sometimes really it falls on Shabbos, and then you're matcha the Tziyon to what we call Asar B'Tevis. So when you're matcha the Tziyon to Asar B'Tevis, so then the halacha is that's called the Tisha B'Av shenitcha. It has certain kulos. One of the kulos that's brought down in Tav Kuf Nun Tes Sif Tes, Tisha B'Av, shechal is b'Shabbos, v'nitchil Yom Alev. So it says Baal Bris. The Baal Bris is a mispal of mincha, ba'oid hayom gadol, v'roichetz. So he's mispal of mincha, ba'oid hayom gadol, v'roichetz. So he can manage to be roichetz then, meaning even though there's an isser of rechitza during the Tisha B'Av, but you can be roichetz. Ve'eno mashlim ta'anisoi l'fisha yomtav shaloihu. So you can be roichetz because we say that a Baal Bris, it's called yomtav shaloihu. It says yomtav. It has a din of a yomtav for the person. So chutzim being like we don't say this lav dafka by a person making a seuda seal, even though it's very, very famous, the lashon of the Chazal that says on a Abaye that when it says when a tzur merabanan made a seal mesaches, avidna yuma tavel rabbanan, I'd make a yom tavel rabbanan, there make beikar the simcha, the seuda. But here it says the Seudah has like a din yomtav for the person, and hu a din in Mishabur brings down a machloiges yesh amishu hu a din im chal pimed haben b'tisha b'av shenitcha nikra gam ken eitzlo yomtav. The mela va'av v'hakoyen ein tzarich lahashtam ataynis. Now, what's ogeya to the yoledes, anyways, the aim is very, very strong. Something she can be made to eat, even though some will say after a chodesh she should be machar to fast. Minyan in Yerushalayim is if she's being yonekis and she's still recovering, and she can be makel, even though it's after a full chodesh. But that's another noise legabi fasting. But if she's nursing, definitely I would say they can be makel. Definitely the Tisha B'Av. And it says over here that legabi yom teshalahu that you don't have to be goymer the tainis. We paskin yom teshalahu you don't have to be goymer the tainis. That's what would come out from the halacha here. Okay, so that's what it said. You don't have to go. I mean, the time it's a Tisha B'Av, not only a bris milah, but who are din on a Pidyon Haben. So for Pidyon Haben, you don't have to be going because it just like a Tisha B'Av. So you see, you refer to even by Pidyon Haben as Yom Tov shelahem. L'chayre, if you can go ahead on Tisha B'Av, also be roichetz. L'chayre hu a din that rechitza would be hutter also for about bris on the Tisha B'Av, and who did for about simcha like the av, the avi, the kohen and avi Haben legavi Pidyon Haben, kashas the aim also, that we'd allow them to be reichitz. But you see, by Tisha B'Av has the Yom Tov shelahem. Now, Lamaisa, that specific halacha, the minig and Am Yisrael, is to be going with the tiniest. It's based on a Machshavah. The Shulchan says, that we would be, even by Tisha B'Av, that they are going with the tiniest, even though the halacha says beferish not like that. It's a big need in the halacha. Why? But that's what the Machshavah brings down, that there are those that are machmer. Okay. So far we have this halacha of Tisha B'Av. You see Yom Tov shelahem. So let's take it to the next step. So if it's Yom Tov shelahem, be like, we say by bris, who did l'chara legabe Bigdei Shabbos? There should be no difference. Bigdei Shabbos it's a Yom Tov for them, just like on Shabbos the minig and Am Yisrael is to wear Bigdei Shabbos. A bris meal is before wear Bigdei Shabbos. Who did l'chara, that should be the same din legabe, like I said, legabe Pidyon Haben to wear Bigdei Shabbos. But what about the mistaper? Is there an inyan to be machmer, to be mistaper, or no, maybe we should not be machmer on the inyan of the mistaper? So the Nogeya bris mila, the Sha'arei Teshuvah brings a tremendous machloikes gedol achronim. By bris mila, do we allow to go ahead and be staper or to shave about simcha, or during the Tisha B'Av, or during during the Ben HaMetzumtzam? According to the Rama, the minig is an army, so even though that's not maker din of the Gemara, that it's only chal and iser of kivus and to mistaper, only shechal Tisha B'Av. The minig of the Rama brings down that the minig at the Eichel Ashkenazim is to aser listaper from the Shivas B'Tammuz. What about when they're about simcha, about bris mila? That's where it's discussed. And over here, the many are mako, many achroim that Sha'arei Teshuvah in the beginning of Tavskos now are mako by Ben HaMetzumtzam. Some are even mako from Rosh Chodesh Av, but that's the shvua shechal boy, and some are mako afilu on shvua shechal boy Tisha B'Av. Now, shvua shechal boy Tisha is a little bit more chomer because that's the iker iser medimah de Gemara. Now, what about if you're having a simcha on Sunday and you want to be makel? Is there a heter to go ahead and to be mistaper on Erev Shabbos? Yesh b'zeh itself a tremendous machloikis, because the Parshas you're about simcha, you have a heter samach to the simcha. Maybe the night beforehand, could be the day of the simcha, but maybe the night beforehand. But more than that, l'chara, you don't have a heter. But we do find by Hilchos the Rama brings down that if it came out Lav Ba'omer on Sunday, Yom Rishon, you can go ahead and mistaper even on Erev Shabbos, coupled over with Kavod Shabbos. So we do apply this to the halach over here. So there are many time in the Noda BiYehuda to say that we wouldn't apply the same halacha. And we wouldn't say the same halacha that we have legabe, like I said, the same halacha that we have legabe, we're going to have legabe shvua shechal boy Tisha B'Av, and say that shvua shechal boy Tisha B'Av you can go ahead and mistaper beforehand, even on Erev Shabbos. But his Talmud, the Teshuvah Ma'av, has a Teshuvah to say yes, you could go ahead and be mako. So over here in our specific case, we're talking about where on shvua shechal boy Tisha B'Av, it's a little bit more chomer to be mistaper. Maybe it's better to do it on Erev Shabbos when it's less chomer. But on the other hand, the minig and the Am is supposed to be machmer for all Ben HaMetzumtzam, kol shekeh from Rosh Chodesh Av. So maybe there's a reason to be machmer. So here it's now the Davar Bar La'alacha, what we're machriya. So there are svaras mikam lekan. So I told the avi of the ben that if he wants to take a haircut, it's hard to say to be matter because we not normally take special haircuts just for the Pidyon Haben. So therefore, the chomer of taking a haircut is to be normally nogged. So you can say, so it's normally nogged. You can say, so there's a payda to do it for the simcha because it's Yom Tov shelahem. But if you don't normally do it, then it's less of a created tzarech. So legabi to take a haircut, I told him preferred not to go ahead and to shave or to at least trim the beard. Which trimming a beard is also usher as an ovel, but you want to be matter mitzad Yom Tov shelahem. So it might be better to do it the week before, and even though that's totally in a machlokes, to do it to Erev Shabbos. being that the Teshuvah Mav is matter, and prevent you from doing the stopper on Erev, to being a stopper on Yom Rishon, which has the choimer of shvua shechal boy Tisha B'Av. So that was, so that's with Nogei Bris Milah, and I said that this is a shayla, are you going to be making all these dinim on Pidyon Haben? So the fee that I mentioned the Mishabru that is machriya, that Pidyon Haben, afilu shelo bizmano, has a din of a Seudah mitzvah. Parshas has a din of Yom Tov shelahem. When the day you make the Pidyon Haben, the Baal Simcha makes the Pidyon Haben, it's Yom Tov shelo, it's be mutter him to be roichetz, l'chara be mutter wear Bigdei Shabbos, and l'chara be mutter also to go ahead and wear and to be mistaper. If you hold that you can go ahead and mistaper about simcha of bris milah on shvua shechal boy Tisha B'Av. That was what I told him. Now, very interesting that it is brought down, the Shaichu brings down from the Chasam Sofer. The Chasam Sofer in the Teshuvah says beferish. It does not apply by Pidyon Haben, the heterli stopper. He says it only applies by bris milah. Even though we've got the other halachas, we might be more meiko. He says, kahu aminik. He says, there's some sort of right in the Teshuvah, I think in Teshuvah, tough, in kuf nun ches and or chayim. That's the minik. The minik is not to go ahead and be mistaper, except about simcha of bris milah. The reason being, he says, is that there's something special about the Baal Simcha of bris milah. He's medamet to ke'ein hakrabas hakorban. Yadu the Devarim Rama. It's already in the Ben Bechaya brings it down also, the Devarim Rama, that says that the minhag is not to give Sunday koyos twice to the same person, because it's doime to haktaris. Haktaris in the beis hamikdash. There are always misader that if a kohen mezoichet to be makta the Taurus, he only got it once, not any other time, because we wanted to sort of spread the wealth. We wanted other people to be able to get it, because Haktaris is a skula to Ashiris. We wanted other kohanim to get that skula. So who adin legave asandikois? The sandik is kain the mizbeach, the mosho. The taking the bris milah is kain the haktaris. That's what's brought down. The Rama is medamatut from the Yishoimim, and therefore there's kain the hakrabas korban dikadin when we talked about the bris milah, and that's the ikra makom that we find. This kulos of Yom Tov shelahem, who by the zman atse korban varam, there's a special korban that certain mishpachos of the kula would bring, and that was these when they bring the atse korban, the eitzim to be makom the korbanos. As memela, the minig, he says the Chasam Sofer would only to be stopper on about asbal simcha the pidyon of bris milah, not other. You may simcha like Pidyon Haben, but others argue with the Chasam Sofer on this. So therefore, I said, if it's not shvua shechal like Tisha B'Av to be meko from Erev Shabbos, it's important for you. If it's not so important, not. I do want to make mention, and that, so I want to just masakim the halachas that we talked about. We talked about the halacha of having the Pidyon Haben on shvua shechal like Tisha B'Av legabi the bracha of Shehecheyanu. That we said there's mafurish. In the Machshavah, Pidyon Haben, you make the Shehecheyanu. We talked about the Seudah basar yayin. So all the bnei mishpacha came out. All of them are going to be, we call kroivim leedus. So all those bnei mishpacha can go ahead and mishtatef in the Seudah of the Pidyon Haben. But if you're bringing friends over, they should keep it to a minyan metzumtzam, because that's what the halacha says in shvua shechal boy chutz from the kroivim. We have the minyan metzumtzam. That would be legabi the seuda, legabi Bigdei Shabbos, legabi rechitza. The chora would be no worse than Tisha B'Av that we allow them to be roichetz, and lechora we allow Bigdei Shabbos by bris milah during Tisha Sayomim huadin by Pidyon Haben, and huadin legabi Pidyon Haben that shaloi bizmano on Yom Lamed Beis, who would go ahead and be mater. Legabe the etzem to miskaper, which is a bit more chomer, that I said better to do it if it's important. If it's not necessary, then not to be. But if it is important for the Avi Ben, he should be the one to go ahead and to be mistaper if he wants to trim his beard, to do that better to do it on Friday than to do it on Sunday. That's what my answer to the Avi Haben, if that's important for him. The other kroivim, like the grandparents, so grandparents have more of a keshet to bris milah. That's brought down in Poiskim. A grandparent's opinion that Ben Lechor does not have a heter to be roichetz. Besides the heter that some people are makel because of the that we're isness, there are people more makel about being roichetz b'chlal. That's not what we're coming to discuss here. That heter, but for the being the bali simcha lechor, that's only be for the aviyah ben and the kohen, not for the grandparents. And who then they probably shouldn't wear Bigdei Shabbos. And there will be a nafkamin also, but even if you were Bigdei Chol, but wearing a tie. If a person wears a tie during the week, stam, then fine. But if he only wears a tie on Shabbos, or he wears his tie on simchas he goes to, like chasnas, or brisim, or Pidyon Haben, then you shouldn't even wear a tie. The Sha'ar kroivim. But the Abiyah ben the Kohen definitely can do that. I do want to point something very interesting. I've mentioned this in my shiurim in the shul. To me, it was a pella, and it just came from toes and paying attention to the halacha. Legavi this halacha listaper. As I said, mitzad ikar dinah de Gemara, the chumrah of not being mistaper, not to shave, not to take a haircut, is shul shechal by Tisha B'Av. We're machmer, akli minig rishonim. We're machmer from Ben Amatzari. There are many. Rav Moshe and the Teshuvah is makel to go ahead and mistaper l'tzarech parnasa. L'tzarech parnasa, you can go ahead and be mistaper, and there are those who feel that there shouldn't be makel like that. But Rav Moshe's matter l'tzarech parnasa to go ahead and mistaper. But I was once at a simcha, had to be at a breakfast for a Machshavah koilel, and I was in America at the time in a certain city. And the Devarim of the city came to this breakfast that was for the koilel on Sunday morning of Bigdei Shabbos. It was the Sunday after Shabbos. It was shvua Tisha B'Av. And the Devarim of the town, they were all older men at the time. They all had shaved. And it could be they all have businesses. The Devarim, they had businesses. Most of them were nursing homes. They had businesses. So when they went to work, they shaved. They were soymach on this heter. But on Sunday morning, when you're definitely not going to work, and the shechal by Tisha B'Av, I was a little bit, it was surprising to me that they shaved. But I'll compare him, I'm telling you, it was behesach hadas. They're so used to shaving till they shave now. These were anoshim who were Ureim and Shleimin, they were medavtek and mitzvahs, and they didn't pay attention. So at least, even if the tzar parnasa people are makel, but on Sunday morning when you're not going to work, in the United States, people don't normally work on Sunday. If you're not going to work, I don't think there's any heter to go ahead and shave then. Okay, this is a dvar halacha that I felt to talk about. I do want to now talk a little bit on inyonei Machshavah, just an idea that I was thinking. The guy with the hate Lorem She'ira Labusenu on Shivasa B'Tammuz. These are there are 5 things that happened on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, and 5 things happened on Tisha B'Av. The 5 things that happened on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. So the first thing was shvua saluchos. It says then sarf apustamus es atayra, batal haktamid. It says batal haktamid, and kimid hamid selim the shechal and huthkair. So we have 5 things. 2 of them is clearly nogeya to Torah, the lack of Torah, the lack of the shvua saluchos. So we don't have any more luchos rishonos. There was certain of a churban on Torah, sarf apustamus as a Torah, the lack of Torah that we have, or it came from a chisaron that there was, that apustam was able to be served the Torah. Those have what to do with a churban hat Torah. And Bemis the Karanori says that the things that happened to Shivas B'Tammuz were things of shvira, of things that affect the Torah, and while the Chamishas Warm She'ir was saying has what to do with the Hashrash Shechina and Am Yisrael and the Beis Hamikdash. Kufkair, you can say, also has what to do with Torah, the lacking of Torah, because Chazal tell us that Yerushalayim was the Ikra Makam for Torah. Tziyon Teitzi Torah Dvar Shem Yerushalayim. The Gemara says in Chav Gimel Medal, Chav Beis Medal, I think, in Chav Aleph Medal, maybe. I'm sorry, in Bava Basra, they're beginning to Konotz Yeshua Ben Gamla. They set up the cheder system, the learning, making everyone doig for other people's children to learn. The first thing was if you would send the kids to learn up in Yerushalayim, because there's a certain mile of learning in Yerushalayim. Okay, Hufkayir affected that. But we have to know what Batal HaTamid, if that's true, and Hametzilim Shechal has what to do with that. Another Ha'ara, the Gemara says, Batal HaTamid, okay, where do we know it, Batal HaTamid? So the Gemara says, Gemara, there's a Messiah. What about Hametzilim Shechal? It brings a pasuk. It brings down a pasuk in the end of Daniel. Ume'eis Husar HaTamid, Veloses Shikutz Shoimim. When it was Husar HaTamid, it was put into the beis of Migdash, into the Shechal, into the beis of Migdash, Azar, a Shikutz Shoimim. Shikutz Shoimim is going to be an Avodah Zarah. That's what it says. That's a Shikutz, a Davar Meshukar, it's a Davar that's disgusting, a Davar that we call a Sheketz. That's going to be, that came in at Tzelem Behechel. So it seems to be directly connected from the pasuk in Daniel that the Gemara is bringing, that it's like a gara. Because there's now that the Talmud's not there, it was able to have the Tzelem Behechel. It seems to be that having the Talmud was what prevented having that Koyach Hara coming into the beis of Migdash, would be the Hamed Tzelem Behechel. But once we lost the Talmud, we don't have that. That there are many that want to say, Lagabi, the Batal HaTamid has what to do with a chisaron of not having the Torah, the hemshech of Matan Torah. It says, we say the Hakravas HaTamid, the pasuk says, by the Talmud, Ha'asuyo B'Har Sinai. When it talks about a Parshas Pinchas, it's the Talmud. When it talks about the Talmud in Perek Chavches, in Pinchas, if the Farish uses this lashon, Oilas Talmud Ha'asuyo B'Har Sinai L'Yet Nechoyach. So you see, it's like it creates some type of hemshech of Har Sinai, the Talmud. And very interesting, there's a Medrash in Medrash Tanchuma. The Medrash Tanchuma in Parshas Tzavra, Ois Yudalid, says that Moshe Rabbeinu asked after Kosh Baruch Hu was misratza on the Chet HaEgel, was Moichel Am Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Mimodi the Boy Oilam. Who's going to tell the Boy Oilam Pashas Mizumas Oilam Shatan Yisratzas to Yisrael? So it says there, Kosh Baruch Hu said, make me a Migdash, v'shachati b'soicham. You be makov the korbanos, and I'll be makabo. What? As a kevis echad tasa b'boikim, as a kevis hashemi tasa ben arboim. Shnei timidim ele b'kol yorim, is Mara Kosh Baruch Hu's nisrat Yisrael in the Chet HaEgel. Ki'ilu. The Chet HaEgel is what happened to Am Yisrael, was gorem, the shviras haluchos. Means the Torah that was given to Am Yisrael in the highest level, which would be Luchos Rishonis, there was Nishbar, the Ritzu on that, because Baruch Hu was Mara by him, Kapu by us being Oived with the Korban HaTamid. That's almost the Ritzu for that thing. And Memela, that's Mara, that was Baruch Nisratza on the Chet of the Zara. Bemis, it's very interesting. It could be, it's almost Psukim of Furashim, a Parshas Tzaveh, and it definitely needs to be exactly in which way it's Mofi. And where it's how, what happens with the Talmud, that it has that tremendous power. But the Psukim in Chavches and Parshas Tzaveh, when it's talking after the Miluyim, it says in the Psukim, the Kavasim b'nei Shama Shnaim L'Yom Tamid, to bring the Tamidim, Shnaim L'Yom Tamid, the Kevis Baboiker, the Kevis Ben Arboim, and it says in the pasuk, Oilas Tamid L'Doroi Seichem, Pesach Oil Moed Lifnei Hashem, Asher Ivoid Lechem Sham L'Daber Lechem Sham. Bring it in the Makam Asher Ivoid Lechem Sham. You see clearly that the Oilas Tamid is connected directly with the Mishkan being called the Oihel Moed, where Amivoid Lechem Sham. Very interesting. Many point this out. The Lashon Moed that we refer to Yom Tovim as a Moed really comes from this Lashon Ivoid Lechem Sham. I meet with you there. It's a beis vad. Moed is a time that we meet with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The meeting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's a Moed that we have. It's a beis vad. So the Tamid, the Korban HaTamid, the Oilas Tamid L'Dorasechem, Pesach Ored Moed Lifnei Hashem, Asher Ivoid Lechem Shama. And almost that Vemis at the Chazal, it has it. It says when you're Yom, that person's mark of a Korban is a Yom Tiv. Certain malacha should be aser. It's to adkekat that really by the Tamid, by being makriv the korban tamid, we should be also malacha every day, because it has like a din mayed. So that's what it says, because a day the korban tamid with Pesach oil mayed. It's referred to, we do it in the Pesach of the oil mayed, the oil where Hashem meets with us. And it says beferish of the next pasuk, no adati shama, livnei Yisrael, and I'm known to Bnei Yisrael through the oil that's tamid. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is known. And the Ramban tells us a very, very, very important yesod. The Ramban, in the beginning of Parshas Terumah, says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Masha the Shechina in Har Sinai Begoli. That Shechina that was Shor in Har Sinai continued in the Mishkan, and the Dibur of Hashem continued derech the Dibur to Moshe Rabbeinu, derech the Aron HaKodesh, through the Dibur he talked to the Kruvim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Megamsav. It was a continuation of Ma'amid Har Sinai. So therefore, the Ma'amid Har Sinai that we had didn't end with Har Sinai. That Maila stayed with Am Yisrael in the Mishkan, and then went to the Migdash. One there was the Aron HaKodesh with the Kruvim. There's almost a Dibur that was Yoitze. Their Am Yisrael was still holding at the level of having Ke'ena Ma'amid Har Sinai constantly, continually. That continued until the Bittul HaTamid. The Tamid continued that. That allowed that koyach of Matan Torah to continue. But that Asher Yvoid Lechem Shama, that oil moyed, the koyach of oil moyed that came our day, the Tamid, the ritzui that we got for the Chorban, for the Chet that we did, the Chet Ego that we have Ayidei the Tamid, stop in those Batal HaTamid. Now we don't have a continuation of Har Sinai in the Shechal, in the Zara, in the Beis Hamikdash. We don't have any more of a continuation of that, what we call the Tamid. And since we don't have a continuation of the Tamid, we don't have the continuation of Ma'amid Har Sinai. Without that continuation, we have the Hefsek. We don't have the Kol of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Ma'amid Har Sinai. So therefore, it allowed for the possibility of the koyach of the Zor to be nichnas into the Beis Hamikdash, meaning it wasn't able to be nichnas of the Zor into Beis Hamikdash when it's a makom, the otzma, the strength of the makom with the korban atamid being nikr the Beis Hamikdash. We had there tmidim kisidron, almost the ashivoid lechem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was shorishon b'kvoido va'atzmoi to the degree where it was a beis vad, there was a vad, it continued the Matan Torah of Har Sinai. And that Rav of the Zohar wasn't able to be nitfasham. Just there was no makom. But with the Chorban, with the Bittul HaTamid, and that's what the pasuk says, U'me'eis husar HaTamid, will I say shikut shoymin. Then it can be how the Ra of the Zohar, the Hamid Selim Behechel. So misfalo that we should be zoiche through our keeping the Yemei HaRoyim, and perpetrating on that we're lacking, that we're missing, that we should be zoich, or Chazal tell us, the kol misaval Yerushalayim will be zoiche b'roye b'simchasoi. Have a good day, good week, and we should see that these yomen should be nefech from Yemei Royim to Yemei Sosa v'simcha.